If you work in polymer clay, you may have at some point looked at tools meant for pottery clay sculpting and wondered if there were any of them that you could use in your work. Well, today I have a review for you of a set of pottery clay and sculpting tools by Arteza. I'll show you what's in it and talk about ones I would use in my work. Hi there, Sandy here. Welcome to another Friday Findings video at keepsakecrafts.net. So this is another product that Arteza sent to me to review. It's a set of 42 polymer clay and sculpting tools, premium. So, a big bag of tools. Let me take all these out and spare you all the crinkle. Well, my goodness, that is quite the pile of tools. Right off the bat, this sponge, I don't know that I would use it much on my polymer clay. I might find a use. Obviously, when you work with earthen clays, water is a tool that you use with it, and a sponge would be useful for smoothing, and I don't know what else. It's been ages since I did pottery. But you could find other uses for this, like if we flatten out a piece to make a flower petal. I often see folks, we'll use one of these little ball tools, thin out the edges, sometimes in their hands, sometimes on a sponge. That seems to work pretty well. Probably be better with a bigger ball tool, but so not its intended purpose, but something you could find a use for. And speaking of the ball tools, wow, that is a truly tiny ball tool. So that could be handy. I don't know that I have one that small. So there's, that's another, it's bigger, but I don't know. Let's see, maybe you could see it now. So far, a nice variety of sizes of ball tools, so those are definitely useful in our polymer clay. This is for cutting blocks of clay. The earthen clays often come in big blocks, and you would undo the wire. I don't know that I would use this much in polymer. There's a lot of these loop tools, and I can see these being useful for polymer clay if you work in a bigger scale. The scale I work in is little miniatures often, usually no more than something that can fit in the palm of my hand. So most of these are really too big for that. These ones are wire tools, which cut through the clay in different ones than these ones that are flat pieces of wire. But they certainly look like they could be useful, depending on, again, what it is that you do, the scale you like to work at. Here's a needle tool, a fairly thick one, and a little sharp blade on the other end. I kind of have a love-hate relationship with two-sided tools because I like to have my things out where I can see them. I've mentioned it before, I'm very visual. And if they're in a jar, then by design you can only see one end. So that bugs me sometimes, but it is efficient. It does take up less space. Here's another wire tool. Let's see. I've got a little bit of clay here to play with. I can see where that would be useful. How do you do that and get a clean channel? Well, that looks like a little doorway for a fairy house. Okay, so I'm already seeing some potential. Now this one looks like it's got, I think it's the exact same thing on both ends, so that begs the question, why is it two-ended when the tool is the same on both ends? But I can see that being useful. Let's see, like this big honking one here. I suppose even at the scale that I work, there have been times when something that would dig out a channel like that could be very useful. So, yeah. Yeah. Can you think of possibilities and uses? I can. So, yes, I think that's pretty useful. Let's see how well this cuts. This looks like the other one that I just showed you, only bigger. And also you can use that to make shapes like scales or a sunburst pattern. yeah, I can definitely see the usefulness of those tools. This one's very similar. That was one thing I noticed when I was going through these, was that it said 42 tools, and I think there are, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 9, 40, 41, 42. Yeah, okay. 42, so if they're double-ended, they may not all be unique. Do you have 42 completely unique tools? Maybe, maybe not. I'm not sure. All right, let's see. Now I've got them all mixed up. So we looked at the ball tools, the needle tool with the slicer. Here's another slicer, triangular slicer shape. And here's yet another shape. So I could see these more in polymer clay. What I do more for creating impressions than for cutting. So gouging. Yeah, so I mean they definitely would have uses. But there are duplicates, like these scoopy bits are the same. And that's interesting. I wonder if there's a smaller one in here, because there have been times when I wish to have something like that. For really scooping out a nice, smooth, round channel. I can't think of what, but I know I've wanted it. Yep. More of these. Oh, that's a slightly different shape, just barely scooped. Another knife. Depending on what you're doing, it might be nice to have something not as sharp. Oh, that's loose in the handle, that moved. It would be nice to have something maybe not as sharp as a clay blade, and with a handle, so it's a little bit more maneuverable and safely managed. Oh, I'm so happy about this tool. And not because it's a needle tool. That's a nice needle tool, great. Needle tools are fantastic. I've seen so many people making things and using the texture from their handle, and I didn't have any tools with that texture. And I love that texture. Isn't that awesome? Waffle cone. So many things. So I'm happy to have that. That's probably what I'll use it for mostly. I actually have a tool very, very similar to this, the Kemper Wipeout tool, which I do use quite a bit for smoothing and blending. Lots of repetition. Shingles, wherever your imagination goes. Is this for something in particular in pottery? Because I don't know what that's about. It makes an interesting shape and impression. I could see using that. But it looks like it's for something very specific. If you know, chime in the comments and let the rest of us know. Same thing again, only I think a different... Nope, exact same thing. Not even the different size. Different shaped ends. These both look like the same diameter drills. This looks a little big. And most of the time I would use a drill on a piece of baked clay. And that's a pretty big hole. I don't know how much use I would get out of this. It depends on what you're doing. Again, the scale at which you work. Is that another one? Oh, it is. Yep. And more scoopy. Oh, this is a fantastic tool. This, actually, I just bought not that long ago. It's a dental tool. Although these are, I think these are a bit softer. But they're great for smoothing in small areas. Yeah, what was it? A gum stimulator. That's what it is. And a lot of artists, especially those who work in miniatures, use them. You can poke. You can draw soft lines. This is actually very useful. This is fun because those of us who are in polymer clay, we love all things texture. And this is much faster and more efficient than using a toothbrush to get that kind of texture. So I like that. I'm going to use that. This, again, it depends on what you're doing. You know, one of these days, it may be just the thing you need. We've all seen tools like these. Sometimes I do prefer wooden tools to metal. I have the Christy Friesen stainless steel tools, and I love them. They're wonderful. They're beautifully made. Sometimes, though, I like the way wood grabs onto the clay better than the way stainless steel behaves. And that just looks downright scary. Wow. Yikes. That's just a really rough saw. Again, I'm looking at the textures you can create with it, which that is pretty cool. I can see that being a bit of decorative trim around something. Oh, it looks kind of like, from the side, like the edges of a coin. So, possibilities. Oh, another ball tool. This one bigger than the other ones, so that's nice. Now this, I am certain there were uses for this. I can't remember what it was that I was using. Something I wanted something like this. Can't remember what it was. Yeah. Calot Knife. I may find myself using this more for mixing up paints than working in my clay. But again, you can use it for cutting, you can use it for making an impression, you can use it for smoothing, or mixing. This would be good for mixing liquid clay with polymer clay to get like icing effects. This one I was pretty excited about. This is a nice tool for texturing and really quickly roughing up a surface, as opposed to taking a toothpick and doing all that to get like a cake-like texture, although I'm making a mess of my work surface. But I can definitely see the benefit of this. So, and it's got that wonderful waffle cone texture. Oh, another size ball tool. And yet another needle tool, and then a couple of spatula thingies. This one, I don't know that that would replace my clay blade. I suppose in some circumstances it might be nice to have something this wide and flexible. You could also use it as a cutter to a certain degree to get nice smooth cuts and curves. So I can see that. This, yeah. So there you go. That is everything in the Arteza set of 42 pottery and clay sculpting tools premium. If you'd like to find different ways of using tools and are always searching for something different and interesting to work in your clay, you might find this useful. So if you want to check it out, there will be a link at my blog post, which you will find in the upper right or down in the description box. That will bring you to my blog, where I'll have more information and a link to the products. So thanks for watching. Happy creating. Bye-bye.